York to try to win the game. The kick.
Oh, look at
has
this.
the distance, and Cade York wins it for Cleveland. York to try to win the game. The kick.
Oh, look at
has
this.
the distance, and Cade York wins it for Cleveland.
Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, candidate Hugh Hewitt. And the 12th day of September in the year of our Lord 2022. And my goodness, the Cleveland Browns have a kicker. Finally, 21-year-old Cade York hitting from 58 yards out with 8 seconds to go to beat Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers by 1 point. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I'm one of those people that wanted Baker to stay in Cleveland because I like the way the young man plays with passion and fire. And he played with passion and fire, so he had a great game. But the Browns had just a little bit more. And so the Browns have won their first game, their first opener of the season since 2004. That one was at home. It's their first away opening win since 1994. So the Browns haven't been 1-0 since 2004, and they haven't been 1-0 beginning away since 1994. It was a long time. There's a lot of news this weekend, but can I just hear that one more time, please? This is Jim Donovan in the booth.
York to try to win the game. The kick.
Oh, look at
There's
this.
the distance, and Cade York wins it for Cleveland.
I got to tell you, the reaction around Cleveland is, I'm on the air in a lot of different places. And so I truly understand that many of you don't care about Cleveland Browns football, but I'm on the air in Columbus and Cleveland, and I am a Buckeye, and I am a Cleveland Browns season ticket holder. And I tell you that because we have a new affiliate today. And it's always good to have a news affiliate. News Talk WNRI, Woonsocket 1380 AM, 1999.9, always streaming online at WNRI.com. So I'm on in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. It's a big deal. Big deal. It's the heart of Red Sox and Patriots and Celtics country. I mean, Boston is the heartbeat, but let's consider this sort of like the what are appropriate internal organs to describe the Rhode Island audience as to the Patriots audience? If they're the heart, then the soul is in Rhode Island, because they've always been the most annoying of all Boston sports fans. And I love you, Woonsocket, and I appreciate 1380 AM, 99.9 FM, WNRI having me on. But I should tell you that Mike Sawirda, if you're listening, that's a good friend of mine from college days, long away, who was a New England Pats fan back then. I do not like the Red Sox, and I do not like the Patriots, and I do not like the Celtics, because they have always beaten the heck. The Guardians, when they were the Indians, beat the Red Sox a couple of postseason series that were important, American League Championship series, as I recall. They have lost to the Celtics in some amazing series, like the 1976 semifinals in NBA at the Garden, which my brother and I were at and were caught at by the plane dealer. Mom and Dad didn't know that that's how we were spending our beer money on Celtics Cavaliers tickets in the playoff then. But welcome aboard. Good to have you. Sports are only a tiny bit of this sports show. This is a news show. So let me get to the headlines, and I'll come back to the Cade York field goal in a little bit. The biggest headline of the weekend, of course, is coming out of Ukraine. We are saddened by the Queen Elizabeth's body passing from Balmoral through Scotland down to Edinburgh, where it will be moved on to London, I believe, today by plane. It was a very heartwarming scene as her hearse carrying her body, and the roads were just absolutely lined by people throughout the United Kingdom's Scottish territory. And her beloved subjects in Scotland turned out en masse. They lost that move for Scottish independence within the decade, and the separatists want to have another go at it. But that show of love for Queen Elizabeth makes you think that's not going to happen. Biggest news is coming out of Ukraine, where Ukraine is just crushing the Russians in a counteroffensive that has shocked everyone. Headlines, Washington Post. Amid Ukraine's startling gains, liberated villages describe Russian troops dropping rifles and fleeing. New York Times, Ukraine routs Russian forces in northeast, forcing a retreat. Wall Street Journal, Ukraine's rout of Russia forces poses a challenge of how to exploit gains. Kyiv's latest offensive has returned more than 1,000 square miles to Ukrainian control. The headlines just go on and on and on. Exclusive in the Telegraph. Russian soldiers literally running for their lives as chain of command collapses. It's a rout. It's an absolute rout. The panicked Russian soldiers are abandoning their tanks, weapons, and even clothes as they literally run from their positions in the face of a shock Ukrainian offensive, soldiers have told the Telegraph. A Ukrainian intelligence unit on the front line said the Russian chain of command was broken. Soldiers were fleeing without putting up a fight, many of them changing into civilian clothes to avoid detention. A drone operator returning from the front line on Sunday also told the Telegraph that the speed of the offensive has even taken their own army by surprise, with troops struggling to recover the mountains of Russian ammunition and armored vehicles left behind. Watching the battle through reconnaissance drones and listening to Russian communications, the soldiers said Russian units were being obliterated before they had time to identify their enemy, while survivors fled the chaos. In one intercepted communication, a commander with the call sign Birdie described hearing a Russian tank unit desperately asking what happened to their command. "We are totally effed." When they fled, later they found their burned tank. This first-hand description of counteroffensive, one of the describing an ongoing operation, belies claims of Russian Defense Ministry that Moscow's retreat from, it sounds like Baghdad Bob, "we are regrouping." It's just live updates. Ukraine blitz sends Russia forces into retreat. All over the New York Times. Fresh from seizing Izium, Ukraine appears to push toward more Russian-held territory. Some maps this morning have them gone all the way back to the Russian border. As Russian retreats, New York Times report, Putin is criticized by hawks who had trumpeted his war. Russian bloggers reporting from the front provide a uniquely less censored view of the war. But as Russia's military flails, the once vocal supporters are exposing its flaws, lies, and all. And then, finally, Ukraine's Reznikov, the defense minister, the Secretary of Defense for Ukraine, in essence, says that Kyiv needs to secure territory after a lightning offensive went better than expected. A counteroffensive liberates territory, and after that you have to control it and be ready to defend it. Of course, we have to be worried this war will continue for years. So calls have increased across the world to please get weapons and resupply to Ukraine quickly. They are winning. If we had staged with them early on, expect Joe Biden to take a bow, because he always takes a bow about everything that remotely is good news on the world stage. If he had resupplied Ukraine earlier, faster, and with more, this could have been prevented. Putin would not have invaded. If Obama had said anything, Putin would not have made his first invasion back in 2004. But they're winning. Let's go with the winner. This audience stepped up with food for the poor to feed Ukrainian refugees. Now let's hope the United States government and Europe continues to do the right thing. It will in Sweden. Sweden went to the polls yesterday. With 94% of the vote counted, it appears that the center-right will have 176 seats to 173 for the center-left. In a 349-seat parliament, I'm doing this for the Steelers fans who are probably a little hungover this morning because they beat the Bengals in overtime. They took me out of my only pool this year, my dead pool. You just stay alive picking one game, no points, no gambling, just pick a game. And I picked the Bengals at home because that's one of the rules, the iron locks, the mortal locks, is that the Steelers are going to suck this year and that the Bengals are going to be good. And, of course, the Steelers won and took out half or more of the people, about 16,000 play in that pool. And it's the SEIN pool. And it's big, it's fun, and it's funny. But I've never, ever lost in the first week, Bengals. Why would I ever bet on the Bengals? Swedish Right, I didn't lose any money. Dignity is gone among the people that participate in this. Swedish Right looks like it's going to win. 176 seats out of 349 for the benefit of the Steelers fans is a majority. That's going to be it. White House alarm rises over Europe as Putin threatens energy supply. I think to myself, they ought to actually be worried about the United States where inflation continues. Pakistan is in a world of hurt, very dire, devastated by floods. Pakistan has a food crisis as well. I've mentioned to you that mourners lined the roads as Queen Scotland's coffin traveled throughout Scotland. A queen like no other begins her last great journey. It's a time of great symbolism. The Stone of Scone will return to England from Scotland for the coronation of King Charles. And Nebraska football fired Coach Scott Frost one day after he was upset by Georgia Southern. I got to tell you, it was a weird weekend in college football. Not for Ohio State, which trumped on Arkansas State pretty handily and flashed a little bit of how good they are. But Alabama should not have gotten out of Texas with that win. I'll be right back, America. On a Monday morning, I'm always happy, especially when the Browns win on a 58-yard field goal in the last 8 seconds, which actually hasn't happened in the 23 years they've been on the road, on this air with you. And they were on the road. Stay tuned, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Good morning, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Markets. There's a big market story today, which is markets are roaring back in the United Kingdom, Great Britain, France, England, France and Germany. They're having a great morning. Why is that? Well, I don't know what's going to mean for today in the markets. I never do market updates in the course of a show because they're already wrong by the time they get out of your mouth. So I try not to play that game. But I do know that on Friday, it was a good day on Wall Street. Last Friday, the Dow went up 193 and the S&P 26 and NASDAQ 70. Gold, and my financial story of the day is sponsored by Birch Gold. Go to hughgold.com, or text my name, Hugh, to 989898. If any one of you from Maine to California's southern border, from Washington State all the way down to Florida, are going to buy gold today, do it with Birch Gold. Text my name, Hugh, to 989898, or go to hughgold.com. They'll send you a free information kit. Do not buy collectibles. Hugh Hewitt always says the same thing. Don't buy collectibles. Buy Krugerrand's Maple Leaves. You're not smart enough to collect numismatics against the pros. Get some American Eagles. Put them in your safety deposit box. Or roll over a portion of your IRA 401k into, again, ounces of gold at the market price, which is at $17.38 this morning, up over the weekend. Oil this morning is at $85 for West Texas. And Brent crude is at $91 a barrel. That's up nearly 2% over the weekend, as maybe that worry that I told you about in the last segment, Europe's energy crisis, is going to mean everyone's going to switch to oil that can in order to get them gas. We shall see. Ukraine's rout of Russia forces hard choices on Putin right now. Is he going to give up? Is he going to give up? Is he going to give the West what they need in the energy? Is he going to try and lean on it? It's very uncertain times. That's why gold is inching up from its really got above 1,800, then went down to 1,700, and it's traded between 1,700 and 1,800 for months as it's tried to figure out whether the Fed is for real. Now, there is a Wall Street Journal story this morning that is my economic story of the morning. U.S. heat wave hits supermarkets' produce section. Heat is hurting quality and availability of lettuce, berries. Retailers seek new suppliers, scale back offerings of lower quality produce. All right, that is coupled with rampant inflation in groceries. Team Biden is running around trying to get you to focus on groceries. Don't focus on gas. Don't focus on gas. Focus on your impact on your wallet. It's 8.5% inflation year over year in July. We'll get the August number pretty soon. It's bad out there. It's worse in the supermarket, and now we have high heat prices are going to raise the cost of fewer vegetable product. It works that way. That's how it works. You end up eating less. So WNRI in Woonsocket, 1380 AM and 99.9 FM, that's the kind of economic news I'll give you. The news that, you're going to pay more in the supermarket this week. Sorry, it's bad news, but Rhode Island voted for Joe Biden. So you guys who are red out there need to go over and persuade your blue. Persuade. This is a show devoted to persuasion. Go over and persuade them that we can't afford 2 more years of Democratic Congress. It'll be a nightmare for you. It's that simple. We can't afford it. Vote Republican up and down the ticket. At the school board level, don't vote for a single incumbent unless you're absolutely certain that they are going to never mandatory close schools again, never mask on a mandatory basis, that they will have learned. Kamala Harris on with Chuck Todd yesterday just said the most amazing thing about the border. It's so amazing. Cut number 6.
What is a semi-fascist?
Listen, I think that let's not get caught up in politicizing the fact that most people in America know that it is not helpful to our country when we have people who are denying elections or trying to obstruct the outcome of an election where the largest number of people in our country voted for the President of the United States. And when we look at where we are, I think that we have to admit that there are attacks from within, to your first question, and we need to take it seriously. And
it's actually a
we need to stand up
incoherent
together.
setup. That's an incoherent response to what is a semi-fascist. She doesn't have a definition. She doesn't know. When we come back, I'm going to play you her very incoherent statement on the border, and then take your calls at 1-800-520-1234. I mean, it's actually the height of incoherence. I've never heard Kamala Harris be more incoherent than answering about the border. I'll play it for you when we come back. America, stay tuned. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Job Creators Network.
York to try to win the game. The kick.
Oh, look at
There's
this.
the distance, and Cade York wins it for Cleveland.
Welcome back, America. I'm in a fine mood this morning. I'm in a fine mood because the Browns have not won a season opener since 2004. Not won an opening game that was away since 1994. Michael Beckman is a friend of the program in Houston, and Michael's my friend, and he said, did I hear you right that the Browns haven't been 1-0 since 2004? That's incredible. Congratulations. It is incredible, Michael. Only Browns fans know this, but I bring it to the rest of the country. Contrast that joy with Vice President Harris yesterday, the tape of her sit-down interview, not sure where it happened, with Chuck Todd on NBC, cut number 11.
Would you call the border secure?
I think that there is no question that we have to do what the president and I asked Congress to do. Is the first request we made: pass a bill to create a pathway to citizenship. The border is secure, but we also have a broken immigration system, in particular over the last 4 years before we came in, and it needs to be fixed.
We're going to have 2 million people cross this border for the first time ever. You're confident this border is secure?
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration. But there are still a lot of problems that we are trying to fix, given the deterioration that happened over the last 4 years. We also have to put in place a law and a plan for a pathway for citizenship for the millions of people who are here and are prepared to do what is legally required to gain citizenship. We don't have that in place because people are playing politics in a state like this and in Congress. By the way, you want to talk about bipartisanship on an issue that...
Stop right there. Stop right. So, what a faceplant. My number is 1-800-520-1234. Woonsocket, you can call me. In fact, you folks can call me down east in Maine. I'm in Mid-Coast until I go back to the Beltway on Wednesday. And so ends my long exile from Washington, self-imposed exile from Washington, because I just couldn't stand the idiocy anymore. But I'm kind of, since I'm allergic to idiocy, that exchange may force me to stay up north. I can't cancel plans. I have plans down there. Kamala Harris, the border is secure, but we also have blah, blah, blah. Chuck comes around a second time. What about the 2 million people who walked across a secure border? We have a secure border in that's a priority for our administration or any administration. 1-800-520-1234. You can talk to me about Cade York 58-yard field goal, or you can talk to me about Kamala Harris. Let's just play it again. People might not believe their ears. I know that folks may not have heard this yesterday. Cut number 11.
Would you call the border secure?
I think that there is no question that we have to do what the president and I asked Congress to do. Is the first request we made: pass a bill to create a pathway to citizenship. The border is secure, but we also have a broken immigration system, in particular over the last 4 years before we came in, and it needs to be fixed.
We're going to have 2 million people cross this border for the first time ever. You're confident this border is secure?
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration. But there are still a lot of problems that we are trying to fix, given the deterioration that happened over the last 4 years. We also
she's got the
have
yips
to put in place.
That's all I can say. Have you ever watched a golfer with the yips? Have you ever watched a baseball player with the yips? It's in their head that they can't do what they used to do so easily.
Tin Cup.
Yeah, Tin Cup, the end of Tin Cup, but also, who was the Dodgers second baseman? Steven Sachs, right? Was it a shortstop? Couldn't throw it first.
No, second base. Kept throwing it into the stands.
Yeah, and you get that in your head. I've had the yips in my head whenever I've had a wedge in my hand. That's why I no longer play golf since I was born. But the yips are the yips are the yips. And Kamala Harris, blank look. Oh, Chuck, you're not supposed to ask that, is in her eyes. Seriously. this ought to be, you have to send a message to D.C. that they have to do something. You have to put Republicans in charge of the Senate and the House. You have to vote for Joe Day's going to be on the show later. Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania. You have to vote for Herschel in Georgia. You have to vote for Chuck Morse tomorrow in New Hampshire, and then in the November election against Maggie Hassan, you have to vote for Adam Laxalt in Nevada, Joe Day in Colorado. You have to vote for J.D. Vance in Ohio. You have to vote for Paul Laxalt, I mentioned, in Nevada, and Blake Masters in Arizona, and Tiffany Smiley in Washington State. I may have forgotten someone in my run-through. You just have to vote for Republicans in the Senate and Republicans everywhere, because this is a leaderless, vacuous administration. Tim in Pennsylvania, since I mentioned PA. Good morning, Tim. Are you a Steelers fan? Are you feeling ebullient that Mitch Trubisky has got a win for the first time in 5 years or something like that?
Well, you know what? I gave up on football when Colin Pumpernickel took the knee and the rest of the NFL went woke.
You haven't missed anything if you're a Steelers fan. But go ahead. What do you think about the vice president?
Well, you know what? Politicians have this gene that allows them to answer a question without answering that question. She does not possess that gene. she just stumbles. So if I'm to understand what she said is that the border is secure, so we don't have a problem. The problem with the 2 million people that crossed, this year alone?
Yeah.
The problem with the millions crossing the border is not that they're crossing the border. The problem is that we don't have a mechanism to make them legal when they get here.
That's what she said.
Yeah. And I just scratch my head, because...
well, get out there and work for Dr. Oz. Are you going to vote for Dr. Oz?
Absolutely.
All right, get out there and do more of it. Thank you, Tim. Sam in Tennessee. Poor Titans lost yesterday. Not sad, not sad. Sorry, Sam. I've been only upsetting the Patriots fans this morning, so I got to slag some Steelers and Titans fans as well. Good morning, Sam. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Hugh. I believe Kamala Harris should either resign or be fired for the comments she made about the border. If you ask me, if I was in her place, and you asked me if that border was secure, I would say absolutely not.
I mean, it says the sky is green. There are 2 million people. It's an all-time record of illegal entrance into the United States. And Kamala sat there not once but twice and told Chuck Todd the border is secure. We have a secure border. The border is secure. We have in fact, if I had a producer, and for my new listeners in Woonsocket, I've managed to be on the air for 23 years without a producer. And there's a guy named Dwayne who comes in here every day, and he looks in the mirror, he's flexing because he's been on a diet. Generalissimo, can you come away from the mirror and come over to the studio for a second?
Yes.
Okay, so is it possible to get you to leave the mirror long enough to edit cuts 11 into would you call the border secure? The border is secure, ... We have a secure border, ...
Yes,
Just that.
I can certainly do
Can you get
that.
that done by Thursday? Is it like dry cleaning?
All you have to do is ask for it, and it can be done.
And then you give it to
when
Jacob.
you ask me for a cut, and I give you the cut you asked for, and then you don't like the cut you asked for,
I just asked for one, and in the meantime, we'll let you talk about how much weight you've lost with myphdweightloss.com. The phone number for this extraordinary program is 864-644-1900, sponsor of the show. It evaporated Mike Gallagher, my friend and colleague on the Salem Media Network, into almost nothing. So Generalissimo put up his hand and said, I'll give that a whirl, and wants to lose 50 pounds. I don't think you have a weigh-in this weekend. Are you at 22 or 21?
I'm at 22.
22 pounds.
Net 22 down thus far, and it's been about 3.5 weeks.
What'd you eat this weekend?
Steak, filet. Really good, too. Tasty.
Did they send it to you?
No.
Okay, so they said you can have some filet.
Well, yeah. You part of the program is you're responsible for eating at least one meal on your own a day. You don't eat just all their food.
Okay, but their food is good.
Their food is good. Absolutely.
And so you had a choice of what to eat, and you ate a filet.
Of course.
So the fetching Mrs. Radio Blogger has to work an extra few hours of overtime to pay for your egg. That must have cost a penny or two.
I'll tell you what, it's a lot cheaper to buy it and make it at home than it is to go out and buy it.
That is absolutely true, but that is. Did you have anything else on the plate besides filet?
Yes. We had a lovely course of sautéed zucchini and squash.
Everyone in Woonsocket just turned you off.
I don't know what to tell you.
All right, Woonsocket, you can trust me on this. MyPhDWeightLoss.com worked for Gallagher. It's working for Dwayne. 22 pounds. That's not halfway. That's 40% of your goal.
It's tough to. It's you do have to eat some vegetables. I mean, you can't exactly lose weight eating nothing but M&Ms.
That's worked for me. Thank you, Generalissimo. Let me go back to the phone. Kevin in California, Kamala Harris. What do you say? We're going to get that new cut to make it easier for people to hear it and respond. What do you think, Kevin?
Morning, Hugh. I listened to that, and the first thing I thought is, has she been smoking something before the interview? And then that pause that she had when he asked her about the border was like, I think she was thinking, you're not supposed to ask me that question.
She might have been thinking that, although, look, it's not a hard ball at your head. It's a over the middle of the plate slow curve, which you can hit if you have any capacity to hit.
Yeah, I heard that and I thought, she is serious, and that's the danger of it. She is serious with her answer. She believes exactly what she has said. It's like, wait a minute, 2 million people?
All-time record?
The border is secure?
Yeah, 2 million people is more than the population of the state, 13 states. Let me ask you, where are you in California?
I live in Rio Valley. I'm on the way to Rialto. I drive sand trucks. I drive rock trucks.
Oh, I know you guys. I probably represented your firm for a while. I did a lot of gravel and rock extraction issues during my 35, 40 years of active practice of law, and represented some guys down near Temecula especially. We were out east of Temecula and constantly fighting with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Army Corps of Engineers, over what is a water and not a water in the United States. I'm retired now, but you guys do good work and you're up early. Thank you for keeping California going. I don't know how you do it.
Hey, Hugh.
Yes,
I've got
sir.
one question for you, if you don't mind.
Oh, please.
Your time at Chapman when you were teaching, did you know a Dr. Roxanne Miller?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
I'm still at Chapman, by the way. Hey, thank you, Kevin. I need to see a face. I haven't been in 2 years. I'm going to teach in the spring, but I've been at Chapman since 1995. But the law school is a building apart in a community separated from the main campus by not just Glassell, but by an ocean of seriousness in that college kids are having fun while they're learning. Law students don't have any fun. They just learn. ReliefFactor.com. ReliefFactor.com. You go to Chapman, you will pass the bar and you will go to work. But if you take my class, you will know the Constitution. And at the end, you'll say, after the exam, that's the best professor ever. ReliefFactor.com is the best supplement ever. How can I say that? It's the only one I've ever taken. Icarian and curcumin, resveratrol, and omega. All 4 of those pills down the hatch with my lukewarm coffee. And it is lukewarm this morning. It's not stone cold. ReliefFactor.com. I did 12 miles this weekend since I spoke with you last, and I'm feeling great because I take my Relief Factor every day. Salena Zito is next. She remembered 9/11 yesterday with a magnificent column, which I posted yesterday. More on that after the break on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. News Talk, WNRI at Woonsocket, 1380 AM, 99.9 FM, always streaming online at WNRI.com. Let me introduce you to a weekly feature of the Hugh Hewitt Show. On Mondays, I get the Yinzer Report from Salena Zito, Washington Examiner column, New York Post columnist for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, reporter extraordinaire, author of great books, and just a buddy. She is sadly a Yinzer, and so to my friends in Rhode Island, it may not be possible for to translate Yinzer into Rhode Island, but I'll do my best to do simultaneous translation. Good morning, Salena.
Good morning, Sunshine. How are you?
I'm good. You know, I am here. I've got my earpiece on. The lady from Pittsburgh is saying that. Good morning, Rhode Island. Tell me, Salena, the Steelers won yesterday. Is everyone watching the Steelers again after the fall off that occurred during the nightmare years of kneeling on the sideline?
It's trickled back. I mean, they obviously did not lose a big portion of their fan base, but it still isn't what it was pre political gauge.
Yeah, pre-Kaepernick and PK and post-K. It is a league much more sensitive to not doing anything dumb like that again. Yeah. And I don't think they sanction their players. I think they just tell them, please keep it in the locker room because you're killing the golden goose. Now, Salena, you wrote a wonderful, moving remembrance of Shanksville and the passengers that fought back into the hijacking on 9/11. It was really a marvelous column. First thing I posted, maybe one of the few things I posted about 9/11, because there's a lot of imagery, but I like people to read about it. How was the reaction to that?
No, I received a lot of emails, a lot of direct messages. I really wanted to focus. Shanksville is not far from where I live, and it's the only place on September 11th outside of New York and Washington that was hit. But there was this makeshift memorial that began because, I mean, I don't know this is a fact, but I assume this happened because the family members of the men and women that were on Flight 93 each brought something on September 17th when they went to visit the site, and they left it there. And all that was there was some mud and some hay that they put on top of this little mounded hill that overlooked the crash site. But within days, people started coming there, sort of like a pilgrimage almost, and they left a part of themselves there. And pretty soon there was a chain link fence, not one that enclosed anything, but almost like a wall. And then there was some white plywood, and kids would bring their football jerseys, their soccer jerseys. The Amish would come on their horse and buggies. People would leave pennies and jackets and rosary beads and prayer books, and the Boy Scouts would come and do the Pledge of Allegiance, and schools would come and sing, and there was always a bag of Kuiper there for some reason. I don't know if it's because it's Western Pennsylvania or what, but it was always such a moving scene and very meaningful.
And now it is a permanent memorial. I want people to understand that on 9/11, that came down close to Salena. I was on the air on California doing morning drive from 6 to, I guess we went most of the day till 6 p.m. I took a 3-hour break in the middle. But the awful nature of those events does begin to turn around. Americans begin to fight back on United Flight 93. They bring it down so that it cannot hit the Capitol where the congressmen were gathered to sing. Not sure if it would have made it to D.C. Flights were going to intercept them physically. America's servicemen were standing in the way already. But Let's Roll is a famous moving moment. And that's why I was glad you went to Shanksville, Salena. Yeah. Now, the country didn't stop like it did on the 20th anniversary. This was the 21st. They'll do so again on 25 and on 30 and on 40 and on 50. But I just hope you keep reprinting that column. And I imagine you'll keep going back to Shanksville.
Oh, I go to Shanksville several times a year. It's probably 25 minutes from my home. And it is always and always will be a very special place to me, because not just what happened there and what the people did, but also how people came from everywhere to honor the people that were on Flight 93 and try to stop whatever was going to happen with that plane.
Yeah. Todd, the Wheaton graduate. Let's roll. SelenaZito.com for my new listeners on Woonsocket 1380 AM, 99.9 News Talk WNRI. Go and get SelenaZito.com. If you subscribe, she'll send you everything she writes. You can also just get a Google alert. She'll show up in the New York Post, the Washington Examiner, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and wherever people want to think seriously about what's going on in Pennsylvania and the world. And I do. And we'll go back to the campaign next week, because she's got covering Fetterman Oz and Oz's surge better than anybody I know. Stay tuned, America. More on Kamala Harris. The border is secure. The border is secure. Because that's just so crazy. 1-800-520-1234. Your calls are welcome on your reaction to Kamala Harris saying up is down, blue is red, and the border is secure. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Stay with us. Hi, it's Hugh Hewitt. Don't forget the Battleground Tour in October, coming to an affiliate near you. The Salem Talkers are out talking about 2022, the election ahead. Battlegroundtour.com.
Would you call the border secure?
I think that there is no question that we have to do what the President and I asked Congress to do. Is the first request we made. Pass a bill to create a pathway to citizenship. The border is secure, but we also have a broken immigration system, in particular over the last 4 years before we came in, and it needs to be fixed.
We're going to have 2 million people cross this border for the first time ever. You're confident this border is secure?
We have a secure border in that is...
Morning glory, America. Bonjour. Hi, candidates. Hugh Hewitt live this morning from Midcoast, Maine. Good morning to News Talk WNRI, Woonsocket, 1380 AM and 99.9 FM, brand new affiliate, joining last week's brand new affiliate, News Talk 94.3 KYLS in Frederickstown, Missouri. I want to tell you, whether you're in Rhode Island or whether you're in Missouri, you always want to be on a Monday morning with me at this hour, because Jake Sherman of Punchbowl News comes and tells us what's ahead in Congress. If you are not a subscriber to Punchbowl News, go there right now and get their free morning newsletter. First thing I read in the morning is news items by John Ellis. Second thing is Punchbowl News, and I know what's going on in the world and what's going on in D.C. Good morning, Jake Sherman. The Browns won on a last-second field goal from 58 yards. I think that should have dominated Punchbowl News this morning, and it didn't.
We don't have a Punchbowl News sports section, Hugh. So I think once we do that, we'll be heading in the wrong direction. So,
Jake, that's not sporting news. That's cultural That's like a Haley's Comet. We haven't seen the Browns win a home opener since 2000. I mean, the first game since 2004, and they haven't won away their first game since 1994. It's like Haley's Comet. Would you not report on Haley's Comet?
We would, but maybe we should re-examine our cultural coverage. But good for the Browns, and the Washington Commanders got a first game victory, so that's nice.
I admit I missed that. I after I absorbed all my Brown stuff yesterday, I stopped watching. Jake, let's go to Kamala Harris. I played the clip that was heard around the world. It will be played 1,000 times today. Chuck Todd, 2 neutral questions. Is the border secure? And 2 million people are coming across the border. Is the border secure? And the vice president, the short version, cut number, whatever the short version is, cut number 11, I think it is, please.
Would you call the border secure?
The border is secure. We have a secure border.
Okay, that's edited. All right, Jake, what do you think of that?
I think a lot of people would disagree with that assessment. I think there's no question that there's challenges at the border. I think there's no question that, and Democrats, by the way, we've seen recently, Henry Cuellar, a Democrat from the border in Texas, has said in an ad he's working to secure the border, meaning it's not secure as of now. And I think most people, the majority of Congress, would disagree with that assessment.
Yeah, Jake, if I'm the vice president, I get asked that question, I would say, Chuck, we are very well away on a day-by-day basis of the number of people crossing the border. You don't have to tell me I'm ahead of you on that. The combination of political instability and violence in Central America with the shattering effects of COVID and unprotected societies, along with inflation that Putin's war touched off, has led to a northward migration that we are struggling because of the previous administration's gaps in the Border Patrol that we have not yet been able to resume control. But I would not simply deny the reality. You would excuse the reality, right, Jake?
Well, I think the irony of the whole situation is everybody kind of understands what an eventual, if there ever is an eventual package to immigration package would look like. It would be increased border patrol security, both interior probably and at the border, coupled with some sort of pathway to citizenship and other changes to the immigration laws. That is not controversial. I think what the last administration did vis-a-vis the border wall, I think that was they personalized it in a way that didn't really make sense. This administration has not really focused fully on the border because of a whole host of other issues. But what you just said is what most politicians have said, some version of that over the last year.
I'm just talking about the vice president's inarticulate inability to answer even a question that should have been anticipated. I do disagree. The wall has been an objective of mine since 2004. W campaigned on it. John McCain campaigned on it in the last 2 elections. Everybody in the Republican Party believes in a border wall, not because it will be effective completely, because it will stop 95% of people and send a message. But Jake Sherman, that's not going to happen in this Congress. In fact, nothing's going to happen except a continuing resolution. And maybe the marriage bill. Would you give us the assessment of a CR getting done and of a marriage bill getting to the floor? Because I haven't seen the language of the Collins-Baldwin Religious Liberty Amendment yet, which is the key to the latter.
There's no language on that yet. That will be coming out, we assume, this week. If there's a deal to be had, it'll get done this week. Mitch McConnell, obviously the Senate Republican leader, has not said which way he would vote on a same-sex marriage legislation. A continuing resolution to fund the government will happen through December 16th. When it will happen is a different question, and what gets added into it is a big question, including that if that marriage amendment makes it in, and furthermore, whether there's money for Ukraine, for COVID, for monkeypox. All those things are a subject of very intense negotiations at the moment. But I think a CR will get done. I don't think they're going to shut down the government. On the marriage thing, I could see it going either way. I mean, it did seem like there was momentum before the recess. I don't have a sense of where the momentum is now, and a lot will depend on whether McConnell is for this legislation or not.
Now, Jake, I'm going to have Joe O'Dea on, who is in some polls ahead of Michael Bennet, Colorado senator. So Joe O'Dea, the Republican. I'm going to have Herschel on later in the week. In some polls, he's ahead of Raphael Warnock. In many polls, Adam Laxalt is ahead of Ocasio-Cortez in Nevada. It depends on who Maggie Hassan draws. I think Chuck Morse will beat her, and I don't think anyone else will. And Democrats are pouring money into the Bulldog race because they want Democrats want Bulldog to be nominated in another massive intervention. Backfired in Colorado when Joe O'Dea won anyway. But tell me this: if Bobby John Ossoff is in India, as you tell me in Punchbowl this morning, COVID shut down in India. And you've got people like Bennett and Ocasio, Mastro, and Raphael Warnock and Hassan on the road. How in the world does the Senate operate 50-50?
I do think that Ossoff will be on his way home in the next couple of days. I think that the COVID quarantine of some of those other folks is expiring pretty soon, so I think they'll be back to full strength. And listen, they have time. They have a couple weeks both to get the CR done and the marriage amendment, the marriage legislation is not subject to any deadline. So there's time to get all this stuff done once the Senate's back at full strength, but they do need most of those people back to get some of this stuff done.
But when does the Senate go out for good? I mean, it is campaign season, and these senators who are endangered want to be in their states.
Goes out for good theoretically, technically after the first week of October, but I don't anticipate that they'll be here till the first week of October. I think they'll do the next couple of weeks, get the CR done, and be out by the end of September.
All right, Jake, this is a ambience atmosphere question. The Democrats had a dead cat bounce in August. They thought that passing the massive Inflation Reduction Act, which was a big spending bill, they thought the student loan bailout would work. They thought the president's red wedding speech in Philadelphia was going to work. It didn't. He went backwards. Are they beside them? What's the mood among Democrats? They had their bounce and it didn't last.
They feel like they are in good position. They feel like their candidates are outrunning the president in most places. The president, of course, is not on the ballot, although his policies are, his leadership is. But, I mean, listen, in a state like New Hampshire, they believe that Hassan's running ahead of Biden, and they think all around the country they see that. Now, Republicans say that this is temporary, and everything is going to bounce back to the mean in the next couple of weeks, which is going to show Republicans winning the House and the Senate being a toss-up. I think there's in between those two is probably the truth, but I think Republicans don't make much of this bounce.
The Arizona Senate race, the Emerson poll came out yesterday. Mark Kelly up 2 over Blake Masters. Now that was the one they were supposed to be romping in. I mean, they were, and they're not. And I'll tell you what, Jake, when they have to say we're outrunning the president, who's at 38% in one poll last week, that's not saying much, is it?
No, it's not. In order to win re-election, you need to be significantly outrunning the president, since the president's at 38%. Now, that poll in Arizona seems to be a bit of an outlier because Kelly does have a little bit larger of a margin in most other polls, but your point's well taken, and we'll have to see, especially in a state like Arizona, whether the NRSC and the Senate GOP super PAC are going to put any money behind Masters.
Yeah, Jake is right. The Real Clear Politics average is 4 points right now, but the last 3 have been +2, +6, +4 for Kelly. In Emerson, Fox 10, and Trafalgar. I'm telling you, that's going to be a nail-biter. Arizona, get out there and go to work. Thank you, Jake Sherman. We will see you next week. As always, go to punchbowlnews.com. My new listeners in Rhode Island and Missouri, if you want to get a free newsletter every morning on what's going on in D.C., punchbowlnews.com. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt here. I am the Ted Lasso of talk radio. I'm not sure how Lasso did last night at the Emmys, because if there's one show I'm not going to watch every year, it's the Emmys, because, my goodness, television has fallen on hard times. To my News Talk WNRI and Woonsocket audience on 1380 and 99.9, and to my News Talk 94.3 KYLS audience in Fredericktown, Missouri, let me welcome you and tell you that I stretch from Maine to San Diego, from WGN in Portland to KCBQ in San Diego, and from Washington State to Florida. We cover the entire country. But some days are more important than other days, and since I cover every inch of New Hampshire, I want New Hampshire voters to know Chuck Morse needs to get your vote tomorrow in the New Hampshire primary for Senate, because he can beat Maggie Hassan, and we have to have Republicans in control of the House and the Senate to stop this inflation. It is that simple. Republicans in control of the House and the Senate, and although school board races are all across the country and they are nonpartisan, do not vote for an incumbent school board member, any one of them, unless you are absolutely sure that they oppose mandatory masking and that they have fought lockdowns from the beginning and they believe in parental control. The GOP is the party of parents, but those are not partisan races almost everywhere. I don't know. If you're also part of the new Rhode Island or Missouri audiences, Salem, now I got a few things to ask you to do. Right, number one, follow me on Twitter, Hugh Hewitt. I don't use Instagram. Facebook page is there for updates, and my website is hughhewitt.com. The key for me is that you follow me on Twitter. You get 90%. Someone said yesterday, you're tweeting a lot about sports today. I said, you're new around here. If it involves the Cleveland Guardians, the Cleveland Browns, or the Cleveland Cavaliers, or the Ohio State Buckeyes, I will occasionally on the weekends tweet about sports. Occasionally. Can we hear that Cade York kick again, please? Just because it's such a happy day for Clevelanders and Columbus people who are listening, and all Browns fans everywhere, including the new Prime Minister of Great Britain, Liz Truss. Cut number one.
York to try to win the game. The kick.
Oh, look at
this. There's the distance, and Cade York wins it for Cleveland.
58-yard game-winning field goal. It's not in my... I've been on the air doing the show for 23 years and on the air since 1990. This is not in my realm of experience. All right, so Cade York was drafted in the 4th round because the analytics people said, okay, we can finally get a kicker. Even though they always win and lose football games, the analytics people have to be persuaded that you need kickers. We got a kicker. So number one, follow me on Twitter. Number two, go to hughhewitt.com, bookmark it. Number three, download the Salem News Channel app so you can watch the show in the morning. We play a lot of good clips for you. For example, the Dancing Browns fan clip. Can we play that? If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, you will see this. If you're just listening on the radio, you will just hear it. But 4 Browns fans are watching the kick, and here they are, the Dancing Browns fans. Cut number 2. I can't tell you how much I love that clip. It works. The Titanic music over Browns fans going nuts, because that just never happens. That works. Let me also ask you to go to salemnow.com and watch Uncle Tom 2, because it's sweeping the nation. And right now we're seeing, I'm going to have Wesley Hunt on a little bit later, and the West Point graduates running into some of the same Uncle Tom stuff that every black Republican runs into. You can follow him at Wesley Hunt, Texas, Wesley Hunt TX. And that congressman's coming up. Joe Day is coming up. But back to the phones on the question of Kamala Harris. Brad in Houston. Good morning, Brad. How are you?
Your weekend. Well, I know how it was. Mine wasn't so great with Texas football, but
you got all my number one picks forever in Cleveland, and you almost beat Alabama. But you got a minute, Brad, on Kamala Harris.
So a couple of experiences I've had is I'm in the oil and gas industry, and I flew to Seattle last year, and you get all excited when you don't have somebody in the middle seat, and then at the last minute, here comes dozens of, obviously young children being seated into the empty seats in the flight. I was on the fire department years ago. I could tell, this girl had a little trauma bear that we gave people, when they were involved in, bad situations. A sandwich, in a clear bag. She was from Guatemala. Talked to her. I spoke a little Spanish. But what's happening to these kids.
She's going to Seattle for the rest of her life. That's what's happening. I'll tell you, Kamala Harris, it's got nothing to do with the humanity of taking care of that little girl, but you ought to be aware of what's going on if you're the vice president. She's not. Thank you so much, Brad. 1-800-520-1234 connects you to Hugh Hewitt. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Good morning to you. Ukraine is putting the metal down. They have the pedal to the metal. They have pushed all the way to the Russian border in the north of Ukraine, retaking 1,000 square miles of land, probably more. Reports will be a lagging indicator of what's actually going on. And following it being the European media, especially the Telegraph in the United Kingdom and Financial Times in the United Kingdom, and it's just good. It's great. Let's get more weapons to them. The Putin blowback. You've got Russian voices being raised against Putin in the military. You realize things are dire indeed, but they've lost probably 30,000 KIA among the Russian people. And that's a lot of dead Russians for Vladimir Putin for a war that didn't need to be fought and that he cannot win. And the West needs to step up, and good for them. My number is 1-800-520-1234. I want to play for you the short version of Kamala Harris yesterday in response to Chuck Todd. Question, is the border secure? And what about the 2 million people? Her two answers edited for time. Cut number 11.
Would you call the border secure?
The border is secure. We have a secure border.
Okay, so that's just it. The border is secure. We have a secure border. Insane. James in Ohio. Good morning, James.
Hi, how you doing, Hugh?
Good. You voting for J.D. Vance?
Begrudgingly, yes.
Okay, begrudgingly is a vote. I know it, you don't get to vote for who you love. You get to vote for who your choice is.
Right. I get it. We have to take back Congress, but he did say that he might have to vote for Hillary Clinton. So I did not want him in the primary.
Well, he won, and Trump forgave him, so I guess you can. Anyway, what do you think about Kamala?
Well, I had a couple of points, actually. One is everybody always talks about how the immigration system is broken. They say that over and over and over, but they never specify how it's broken or what needs to be done to fix it, other than just making everybody citizens. The other comment that I talked to your call screener about was it Chris Todd?
Chuck Todd.
Chuck Todd. His follow-up question should have been...
No, we don't just stay on Harris. What did you think about Harris?
Well, that's kind of where I'm going, is why, if they've had the House and the Senate and the White House for 2 years, why haven't they fixed the broken immigration system?
Yeah, but the key is with an interview, because I've been doing this for so long, people wish I'd ask different questions than I ask. And I said, look, the question that I asked, what do you think of the answer that she gave? And the answer that she gave bespeaks a fundamental disassociation with reality.
Right. The answer that she gave was a lie. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, but does everybody know that? I mean, does everybody know that the vice president either is completely clueless about the border or will lie to the face of a national audience twice?
I believe so.
Okay, that's why I focus sometimes on when you get a moment of clarity, a moment of positive or a moment of negative clarity about somebody, focus on it and repeat to people today when you go to work. You know, the vice president lied twice to Chuck Todd yesterday. She said the border is secure, no ands, ifs, buts about it. And that is a disassociated reality. Hey, thank you, James. Isaiah in Virginia. Hi, Isaiah. Good morning.
Good morning, Hugh. How are you?
I'm great. Are you a prophet or a son of a prophet?
Actually, my father is going into ministry school now. He's got 9 months of it, so almost there.
Almost there. Now, I've been listening to Father Michael Schmidt's Year in the Bible. You do the Bible in a year if you listen every day, and we're on like day 253, and we've covered Isaiah for the first time in my life. I've heard it read. It's a great book. You've been named for a great prophet.
Oh, yeah, it's got lots of truth in it.
Yep.
I don't honestly. I'm sure many people in the country are speechless in regards to VP Harris and the comments she's made on live television. It's not surprising to me at this point in the stage of our game, where her mind's at, if she has a mind still to this point. But she is one of the worst politicians to ever exist in Washington. I mean, I don't even know if she's visited the border at all. I know Ted Cruz has visited the border plenty of times. But she is just absolutely, I mean, she is so hypocritical about the whole border situation. I don't understand how people can still be on board with her.
I don't either. It's actually so staggering that it bounces off of them. They don't want to consider, again, short version of the vice president cut number 11.
Would you call the border secure?
The border is secure. We have a secure border.
All right, this is nuts. It's just stupid, Isaiah. Do you think that people will vote on that basis that the Democratic Party at its highest level will not deal with facts?
I think that it's going to be on the ballot. It's not just the border that's going to be, on the ticket come November of 22 and 24, but you're going to see the border become a large issue, as it has been for many, many years. I think that our previous administration, of course, you can already tell I'm Republican, but I think they did 110% of a better job, or at least attempted to, given how much the Democrats blocked that administration from doing their actual job. They had more success with it than this current administration.
Absolutely. Now, they made some mistakes.
Letting people fly in.
They made some mistakes. The child separation policy was a disaster, and people regret that, and it will never happen again. But building the wall was smart. 415 miles got built when Jared Kushner took it over from the Department of Homeland Security. That's a good 415 miles of about 900 to 1,000 that we need on an 1,800-mile to 2,000-mile border, depending on how you measure. And I know there's a precise measurement, but some people do it differently. Here's what I have to say. Republicans have to run on this issue, and they have to run a lot of issues. Inflation, crime, and the border are the big three. Inflation, crime, and border. Inflation, crime, border. Affordability, it's gone. At the same time, I want them to generally note that people are tired of woke. We have a sponsor on this show for the benefit of my new audiences. And I want to make sure I get the call letters right, so I'm looking down from the camera because I don't want to get it wrong. News Talk WNRI in Woonsocket. And I am so happy to have Woonsocket on. All these Red Sox fans, all these New England Patriots fans are coming here for clarity about football and baseball from a Guardians and Browns lifer. And I haven't forgotten that the Celtics beat the Cavaliers at the Garden in 6 in 1976. I'm still bitter about that. Austin Carr is the voice of the Cavaliers. But to that audience on 1380 AM, 99.9 FM, and to my audience in Missouri, brand new affiliate in Fredericktown last week, News Talk 94.3, KYLS, I say to you all, please join rockthewoke.com. RockTheWoke.com is the effort by the Job Creators Network to put together. Actually, they've got millions of people who have already joined because the Chamber of Commerce in the United States fell apart in D.C. It's a complete shell of itself. It no longer represents small businesses, Main Street. It went there to represent the hardware store and the ladies' dress shop and the auto parts store and every other store that's in every other town in America. That's what the Chamber of Commerce was supposed to do. They got woke. They fired their Republican strategist 2 years ago. They elected a Democratic Congress, and of course their credibility is shot with everybody. Democrats don't like them. They're the Chamber of Commerce. Republicans won't talk to them because they're turncoat. So it's a broken and battered institution. The windows are open, tumbleweeds are in the hallway, and nobody returns their calls. Into the gap stops the Job Creators Network. Some of the state chambers are great. Florida chamber is great. Arizona chamber is great. But the national chamber is busted. National Federation of Independent Businessmen busted. If you stay in D.C. too long, that's why I leave D.C. I live in Virginia. I live inside the Beltway, but I get out a lot. I come to Maine. I go to California. I try and get out a lot so I can talk to actual people. Had a HVAC guy over at the house, and Jim, if you're listening, it was a joy meeting you. And Jim and I were talking a little bit, but I have not met anybody in the trades in 4 months in Rhode Island who isn't completely tuned into what's going on in this country. Not Troy, not Jim, not anybody. Everybody knows what's going on. Joe, I'm talking to you. You were here taking care of the spiders, and I can talk to all of our friends. Kata, I can talk to Elred. I got all these Mainers. Bet and I are going down to the house at the cabin at the lake. And I can now speak Mainer, or at least I have conversational Mainer. And not one person is clueless on the state of the country. Not one. Now, the woke folk don't want to deal with it, which is why Job Creators Network wants to rockthewoke.com. And they are doing a fine job of it. Go there and join. Forrest in Minnesota. Good morning, Forrest in Minnesota. You know, I am the commissioner of hockey in Minnesota by decree of the former governor, Tim Pawlenty, and it's a lifetime appointment, so be careful what you say.
Yeah, I'll be careful, and the season's coming up, and you're going to be a busy person.
I know, I could ban you. There's a lifetime ban on Chad the Elder for comments attacking the commissioner. So go ahead.
Well, he's a little uppity. But Kamala Harris is a wonderful standard bearer for her party. Keep in mind, she was put in charge of this issue. And
yes, she was.
Do we not? Does not America have a pathway to citizenship now?
Yes, we do.
But her party doesn't like it, and they want to fundamentally change it.
Yes, they
but
do.
She's not very good at what she does.
No, she's
not very good at it.
She's terrible at it. She is and there's no hope. You know, the Guardians have gone. The Guardians swept the Twins, by the way, if you were watching. They swept them in Minneapolis.
Well, I'm a lifelong Minnesotan, and my sports heart is very scarred.
Well, the Vikings beat the Packers yesterday, so that should get a little lift in your step.
But that was satisfying. It was very satisfying.
The Guards just took the Twins out with a broom. But I was about to say, nevertheless, there should be a silver lining because you got Tom Wheeler running up there. You've got a lot of great candidates running up there.
He's a submariner, too.
Oh, are you a submariner?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I know Wheeler well. He was my neighbor for a while in Northern Virginia when he was on active duty in the submarine service. He's a good man. His wife is a good
Of course he is. He's a submariner.
Well, I know. You guys are a little bit. I've got Navy people all through the... Hey, we haven't got any off-the-shelf submariners yet. We got pilots and intel officers and SEALs in the family, but we do have... Larry O'Connor's daughter may eventually become one of your number, and then I'm going to have to go
maybe
easier
you
on
get
him.
up to that standard eventually. Hopefully you get there.
Go help out. Go help Tom Wheeler today. Go walk a precinct for him. Thank you, my friend. ReliefFactor.com. If you're new to the show in Woonsocket, and Woonsocket's a big city, and everybody around Woonsocket can hear me as well. That's a great affiliate. And ReliefFactor.com will help you. If you have to drive to Boston every day, if you're going up north, get yourself some Relief Factor. Relief Factor. That's how you say it, I think. I don't know how to speak Rhode Island. I can listen to it and translate, but ReliefFactor.com. You want to get it. You want to make sure. Alan Fung, by the way, Rhode Island. You need to get Alan Fung into Congress. He's going to win RI2, and he's going to be a great congressman. I got to get Alan Fung back now that we're on in Woonsocket. But I want everyone to understand. ReliefFactor.com, great sponsor of this show for, 10 years. I take it every morning. I have been in radio and television for 30 years. I've endorsed exactly one supplement in the last 21 of them. For 2 years, I took something called Focus Factor, and then I stopped. I just said, it's fine. Nothing that I need to endorse. But I love ReliefFactor.com, and it's the only thing I take except a daily vitamin. So I would encourage you to get your ReliefFactor.com and try it. Just see if it doesn't help you with the minor aches and pain. Josh Kraushaar is next. The polls are not going in the Democrats' direction. Josh Kraushaar with Axios, like Jake Sherman, a regular weekly guest that you never want to miss on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Job Creators Network.
York to try to win the game. The kick.
Oh, look at
There's
this.
the distance, and Cade York wins it for Cleveland.
I do not understand, America, any news outlet, Axios, or anybody else not leading the news with the Browns winning in the last 8 seconds on a 58-yard field goal by a rookie kicker, Cade York, out of LSU. But Josh Kraushaar is here to answer for the Axios malpractice. Josh, there's only one story. It's the Browns.
Well, I watched some of that game, the final few minutes. And look, the Browns never have had a good kicker. I don't think they've ever had a kicker that has made a 58-yard field goal. And the fact that it's always a risk to put a draft pick on a kicker. I think it was a fourth rounder out of
Fourth
LSU.
rounder. Yeah.
I mean, that's looking like a good pick. That's looking like a good front office.
I think analytics are going to realize kickers win. They had Phil Dawson, who was gold, like the Ravens kicker is now. But it's been 20 years since we had Phil Dawson, and we had other Don Cock. We had great kickers. Lou Groza defines the Browns, but not for about 15 years. Okay. Josh Kraushaar, I've got new affiliates in Rhode Island, new affiliates in Missouri. They don't know you. We do politics. You're objective. I look at the Friday polls at Real Clear Politics. Kelly up 2, Kelly up 6 in Arizona. Hobbs up 1 in Arizona. Holtschel only up 15 in New York. That's odd. Vermont, the Republican is crushing it in the governor's race. I mean, just crushing it. And I think the generic congressional ballot with the Republicans up 4 is the most interesting thing from Rasmussen. What's your take on where the election numbers are going right now?
Well, look, I just got back from both Pennsylvania and New Hampshire, covering both of those big Senate races. New Hampshire is picking a Republican nominee tomorrow. Pennsylvania, it's the big matchup between Fetterman and Oz. I would keep a close eye on Pennsylvania. Oz is closing the gap. I mean, the numbers, August always provides a whole lot of polls that are a little bit premature, a little bit not reflective of where the race ultimately will be. And Oz is getting a lot of money from all the traditional Republican groups. I reported in Axios today that the Chamber of Commerce is putting $3 million in to SLS, to the Senate Leadership Fund, to help Dr. Oz's campaign. Republicans are now actually pretty united in Pennsylvania, and Fetterman still is struggling, not doing a whole lot of campaign events and not accepting a debate quite yet, which is it's taking a toll, I think, on his campaign. So if Pennsylvania is one of those bellwether states. The way Pennsylvania goes, I think is going to be very reflective of where this Senate majority goes, and I think that one's going to be a whole lot closer than people thought a few weeks ago.
I actually think Herschel's going to win in a walk. And this is Hugh Hewitt talking, not a poll. I just think he's going to win in a walk, that people don't talk to pollsters in Georgia. They love Herschel. They've known him for 35, 40 years. He's a very nice guy. Warnock wouldn't debate him in Savannah. Walker won't debate Warnock elsewhere. They're not going to have a debate. It's just going to be Republican, Democrat, straight up. And then Karl Rove was on last week. He thinks Adam Laxalt's the best bet to take a seat away. And then we have got, we still got Arizona, which is Masters within a couple. And you got Maggie Hassan, who will win if Bolduc is nominated. But she could face a very difficult uphill race if Chuck Morse wins tomorrow, Josh.
Yeah, I mean that's the story in New Hampshire. Whoever Republicans nominate is going to dictate the trajectory of that race. I actually spent some time with Don Bolduc, who a general. He was doing a town hall. He's in a lot of these town halls in New Hampshire. Where he talks like a military man. He kind of barks out his anger at what's going on in Washington. But his view, when you actually press him on some of his views on some issues, they're going to be fodder for Democrats to really capitalize on. One specific example. He doesn't think that we should be involved in Ukraine. When I asked him, he said that in his town hall. I pressed him on it after this event he did, and he was adamant that we shouldn't be continuing any engagement until in Ukraine and helping the Ukrainians until we have a better, more specific plan. He said, and that was given everything that's been going on in Ukraine over the last few days. So that's one example on an issue where if he's the nominee, I think he might not be ready for prime time.
Oh, he will lose. He will
lose.
I'm not going to spend a minute on that race, and I cover New Hampshire. He will lose. If Chuck Morse is in that race, I cover it every day.
Right, but that is a seat that would be thrown away, because if you have a more mainstream Republican like Chuck Morse, that's a toss-up. That's a very competitive race. So that is what Republicans have been worried about all cycle. It's not the environment as much as it is the candidates. Arizona, I still think Masters has a lot of challenges in a purple state like that. New Hampshire, we just talked about. But I do think Pennsylvania is going to be looking a little bit more favorable for them. Wisconsin is looking a lot better for Republicans. So the path in Nevada, you mentioned Nevada, that is what Republicans believe is their best pickup opportunity on the Senate map. So that's the
now,
path
Josh.
to 51.
I played Kamala Harris punting or just lying. The border is secure. The border is secure. Yesterday, she's co-hosting the show with Kate York today. I'm playing 2 clips over and over again. Does it matter if the vice president just flat out lies to the country and they know that she's lying? The border is not secure.
Well, look, Vice President Harris, I mean, she was given that kind of responsibility to talk about the border, to talk about some of our relationships with Central American countries, and that has not been, I mean, that's been a big problem. She's been unable to really convince voters that that's a strength of hers. So, yeah, that's always going to be a vulnerability. Ultimately, though, this is going to be about Biden. This is going to be about the Democratic message, and it's going to be about these Republican candidates running in these key Senate races.
It's going to be ultimately about affordability and crime. That's the 2 things that has pushed it. Everything else out of the way. Pro-life activists, pro-abortion activists are not happy with that issue set. They wish people were only concerned about Dobbs. That's not happening. Follow Josh Kraushaar on Twitter. Go and subscribe to the Morning Update from Axios. It's free. And listen to him every single week. To my new friends in Woonsocket and in Missouri, Josh is here every single Monday. I'll be right back for Hour 3 of the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt.
York to try to win the game. The kick.
Oh, look at
Has
this.
the distance, and Cade York wins it for Cleveland.
Would you call the border secure?
The border is secure. We have a secure border.
Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I am Hugh Hewitt, live this morning from Mid-Coast, Maine. Headed back to the Beltway midweek. Welcome to News Talk WNRI, Woonsocket, Rhode Island. AM 1380, 99.9 FM in Woonsocket. It's great to have you. And second week, welcome to News Talk 94.3 KYLS in Fredericktown, Missouri. Brand new affiliates. And sometimes I have dueling audios in my head. I've got the Browns winning for the first time since 2004, their season opener. And only the first time since 1994 that they've won playing away. And as far as I can remember, and I'm 66 years old and been a Browns fan my entire life and remain a season ticket holder, they've never won on a 58-yard field goal in the last 8 seconds. I mean, that's just new. So I got to. But then we got Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, saying, "Can we play cut 11 again, please?"
Would you call the border secure?
The border is secure. We have a secure border.
That's edited. She had a bunch of pablum in between those two statements, but you get the idea. So I have to, my joy is mixed with my mouth dropping, jaw hitting the desk, remarkable, stunning inability of our vice president to have a coherent thought. If you have ever watched Veep, which starred Julia Louis-Dreyfus, she is Veep. She makes Veep look normal. What do you folks think? Art in Oregon, up early on the West Coast. Good morning, Art.
Good morning, Hugh. Well, I got two things to say about Kamala. Rainbow fentanyl. If the border's secure, how come we have an influx of rainbow fentanyl killing our kids, killing our young adults, and also all the gang habits? Hugh, we got a new nickname for Portland, Oregon. We're calling it Little Chicago.
Well, the border is not secure, and you're right. 108,000 Americans died in 2021 because of overdoses. That number is going to go up. It's going to go up because fentanyl is rolling across the border like a tidal wave. And by the way, people aren't saying, give me fentanyl. They're saying, give me a Xanax, give me a Percocet, give me any ordinary pain pill, give me an upper, give me a downer, give me whatever kids take and younger people take to get high. And now it's fentanyl-laced marijuana. They're not asking for fentanyl. They're being given fentanyl because it's cheap to make. It extends the other batch of the drug, and it's a killer drug. It's just like you're experimenting with your life when you order a pill from the web that's not doctor prescribed. You're just experimenting with your life. And please don't do it. But Art, you're right. Oregon suffering from that. Michael in Florida. We go from Oregon to Florida to prove east to west on this country, west to east. Go ahead.
Good morning, you. How you doing?
I'm great.
Well,
what do you think?
Can you hear me?
I can, Michael. You're on.
Oh, okay. She's just very clueless. I mean, has she ever visited the border?
Now, I don't know that she's ever been. She made one day trip, I think, to El Paso. I'm not sure.
I mean, she's just ignorant, and I mean, to say that the border's secure, I mean, that's just a joke. It's like
it would be like saying during Prohibition there are no speakeasies. What do you mean alcohol is in America? No, it's illegal. It's really quite amazing, the cluelessness, and that's a good word, Michael. Thank you, Joe in Georgia. Good morning, Joe.
Hugh, love your show. Hugh, the border, of course, is not secure. How can she keep lying to the American people? That's ridiculous. And her issue on the border and the Democrats' issue, that's going to elect Brian Kemp and Herschel Walker in Georgia. But I just want to say, Hugh, you've got a great program, and I don't believe anything Kamala Harris or Biden says.
Well, Joe, thank you. I've got to say, though, that Georgia being number one instead of Ohio State is really a travesty. And, I'm glad Herschel's coming back, but you've got to get to the AP voters and start talking some sense into them. They're playing a lightweight schedule.
Georgia Tech graduates and Georgia graduates were joining together to elect Herschel and Brian Kemp. So
I love someone who stays on message.
And Brian are going to win.
All right, thank you, Joe. Joe is staying on message. He cannot be deterred. Even though the SEC is and I think there's an antitrust action waiting to be brought against the SEC. Pete Buttigieg with our friend Alex Michelson from KTLA yesterday, cut number 7. Oh, maybe not.
How much confidence
Our
do you
machine
have in the
frozen?
Supreme Court?
No, cut number 7, Pete
an
Buttigieg.
activist court.
I don't care what Kamala Harris thinks about the Supreme Court because she doesn't know anything. Cut
Here
number
in
7.
California, recently announced that by 2035, all vehicles that are new, that are sold, have to be electric vehicles or can't be gas-powered vehicles. What do you think about that? And is that something that could be a national model?
Well, it's interesting to see how the states are trying to go above and beyond what we're doing at the federal level. And I'm really interested to follow these developments while we continue to set a national policy that's the baseline for all of this. We need to move in the direction of electric vehicles. And look, industry's already there. At least one major automaker says they're not even planning to make gas cars past 2035. But we've got to make sure that this happens quickly enough to help us beat climate change. We've got to make sure it happens affordably enough that it's not just wealthy people, but low-income people who are the ones who most need those gas savings if they can afford the EVs in the first place.
Yeah, they can't. Now, when a politician says a topic is interesting, that means they don't have a good answer because it's absurd to say we're going to get rid of gas-powered cars by 2035. It's not happening. I think EVs will gradually take over as affordability and accessibility to charging stations proliferates, but nobody in their right mind is going to get an electric vehicle. I talked to a guy leaving Moreno Valley for the East Coast, for the West Coast of California this morning, 2-hour commute, even if you're out early, 2-hour commute. Your EV gets stuck in traffic, you're screwed. It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. Also want to play for you a little bit about the Queen. This is a member of Parliament, Tim Farron. Tim Farron was the leader of the Liberal Democrats, the centrist left, center-left party in the Commons. He had a very nice thing to remind us about the Queen. Cut number 3.
So she was a constant to us all, and has been said already, but the constant in her life was her faith in Jesus Christ. Now, let's remember this, that for many people, it may have been, but for her, it was not a perfunctory, ceremonial faith. It was a living, active faith in a living Saviour.
That I find great for a member of Parliament to remind. She was the defender of the faith. She was an exemplary leadership in the Christian monarch style, constitutional monarch, and she will be missed. King Charles made his first comments on Friday. Cut number 9.
And wherever you may live in the United Kingdom, or in the realms and territories across the world, and whatever may be your background or beliefs, I shall endeavor to serve you with loyalty, respect, and love, as I have throughout my life. My life will, of course, change as I take up my new responsibilities. It will no longer be possible for me to give so much of my time and energies to the charities and issues for which I care so deeply. But I know this important work will go on in the trusted hands of others.
Okay, and then he finished by talking about his mother. Cut number 10.
On behalf of all my family, I can only offer the most sincere and heartfelt thanks for your condolences and support. They mean more to me than I can ever possibly express. And to my darling Mama, as you begin your last great journey to join my dear late Papa, I want simply to say this: thank you. Thank you for your love and devotion to our family and to the family of nations you have served so diligently all these years. May flights of angels, sing thee to thy rest.
Charles as King's first address. King Charles, later, yesterday, King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla addressed Parliament for the first time after being the recipient of addresses from the Leader of the House of Lords and the Speaker of the House of Commons in the great tradition of the peaceful transfer of constitutional monarch to constitutional monarch that has marked Great Britain since 1688. We are glad for that. We celebrate God Save the King and our ally and all the allies in the Commonwealth. Coming right back, 1-800-520-1234. If you're new in Rhode Island, you're welcome to call, but expect no love for the Patriots here. I'm Hugh Hewitt, and I'm a Browns fan. Affordability and inflation, crime in our cities, the border crisis, higher taxes. These are all the concerns we face going into the midterm election. Learn who is on the right side of those issues. Join me for the Battleground Talkers Tour this October. Visit battlegroundtour.com for dates, locations, and tickets. Battlegroundtour.com for all the details. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Welcome to new audiences in Rhode Island and in Missouri. One of the things I do every morning, so you understand, I start with the Times of Israel, then I go to the Financial Times, the Telegraph, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post. And that's, I do the order a little bit differently every morning. But I also read Punchbowl News, Axios, and news items by John Ellis. That's a Substack subscription, such a good Substack subscription that if they ever raise money, I'm going to invest in it because I learn every day from it, and I think it's probably the one thing that if you don't have a lot of time, you need to read. So what did I read this morning? News item number 6. New York declared a state of emergency over polio virus on September the 9th. Officials have now detected the virus, which was largely believed to be eradicated in the United States, in 5 counties, including New York City. Quote, on polio, we simply cannot roll the dice, said Mary Bassett, the New York State Health Commissioner, in a press release on Friday. If you or your children are unvaccinated or are not up to date with vaccination, the risk of the paralytic disease is real. Now, John Ellis excerpted that from newscientist.com. I have not seen a word about that. That is horrific. Polio is a third world disease and shouldn't even be in the third world. Effective, non-controversial vaccine is available, works completely. You just got to get it. And again, they never tell you, does it correlate with recent arrival in the United States? My guess is that it does. Let me check the 10-year Treasury market this morning. This is brought to you by andrewandtodd.com. For my new listeners, if you're buying a home, whether you're in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, or Fredericktown, Maryland, do it with Andrew Del Rey and Todd Avakian at andrewandtodd.com, 888-888-1172. They serve a nationwide audience. They're with Sierra Pacific Mortgage. They're lenders. They've been sponsors of this show for a decade. I know Andrew for 20 years and Todd for half as long, and they are wonderful, great Christian men who run a great operation that is simply without parallel in providing you service soup to nuts. They do not broker you. They lend you the money. They give you a yes or no, and with a couple of answered questions on the internet, or you call them at 888-888-1172, they'll tell you how much you can borrow and for what purpose. They will also, if you're a senior citizen and you would like very much to get a reverse mortgage, you got to be 62 years old. It's only available on your principal residence. A lot of sons and daughters of aging Americans call andrewandtodd.com, say, is a reverse mortgage right for my mom and dad? They're 82 years old and they're living in middle of the country, Kansas. And they paid off their house years ago, but it's a little tight right now. They'll tell you, you can borrow up to 60% on your house, never make another mortgage payment in your life. You don't destroy the entire value of the house, and you shouldn't spend the principal that you get out. You should just take one of the financial advisors that they will recommend to you, or find your own financial advisor and live off the interest from the principal, but that's not making you any money in the ground. And don't cut back on medicines and groceries when you're sitting in a fully paid house. Get a reverse mortgage, andrewandtodd.com. 10-year Treasury this morning is at 2.92%. After a healthy day on the markets Friday and a boom overseas this morning with everybody up in the green, I think everyone is cheered by Ukraine's advance. But that also means West Texas crude and Brent crude have gone up 2% this morning. So that will roll through to your gas tank, in September, in about a week, maybe 2 weeks. Gas prices, which went down as the international economy stalled out. We're looking at Ukraine winning, and Putin may need money in a hurry, and he may start selling gas and oil again, and we may let him if he withdraws from Ukraine. The only way out of this is for Putin to get out of the country that he invaded and to begin to sell oil again, because his country is reeling under sanctions. He should throw up his hands and try and save himself. That might bring down the cost, but not before the elections. The elections, the generic ballot, Republicans +4, I believe that hides a greater advantage in redistricting. I think the Republicans are a dead mortal lock to win the House back, and looking very good for the Senate. Tiffany Smiley in Washington, Adam Laxalt in Nevada. We are looking at Joe Day, who's coming up at the end of this hour in Colorado, winning. We're looking at J.D. Vance and Dr. Oz holding Republican seats in Pennsylvania and Ohio. We're looking at Blake Masters winning in Arizona, Herschel Walker winning in Georgia. If Chuck Morse wins tomorrow in New Hampshire, Chuck Morse will beat Maggie Hassan. I also think there could be a stunner in there somewhere, because it's that bad for them. It's that bad. Democrats have lost the confidence of the country for very good reasons. They earn that loss of confidence every single day. And Kamala Harris yesterday, well, I'll talk with Wesley Hunt of Texas, soon to be a new member of Congress from Texas right after the break. Stay tuned, America.
Curious about what you're missing in the universe? The After Show? 21 years of Hugh Hewitt shows on demand? Go to www.huniverse.com right now, where it's only 99 cents to join for the first month. www.huniverse.com.
Welcome back, America. I'm playing Apocalypse Now music, of course, The Flight of the Valkyrie, because Wesley Hunt, who's going to be new congressman from Texas, is a helo pilot, as is Jen Kiggins, as is our friend from up north in Michigan. I got to remember his name from last week. There are going to be 3 new helicopter pilots in the Congress, Wesley Hunt among them. Good morning, Wesley. Welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Good morning. How are you doing, sir? Thank you so much for having me on.
Did you ever fly with Tom Barrett, our Michigan friend?
I did not fly with Tom Barrett, but I can assure you that I'm probably a better pilot than he is.
Okay, well, that goes without saying, but Jen Kiggins probably is going to say that the Navy helo pilots are better than both of you.
I know, right?
So we're going to be able to get Congress at least moving around the country faster with 3 helo pilots. Tell me something, Wesley, about your district. We got new audiences today in Rhode Island and Missouri, brand new affiliates. They don't know you, they don't know me, but tell them where your district is, tell them why you're running, tell them how they can help.
Absolutely. Well, right now, I'm running in Congressional District 38. It's a newly drawn district that was just placed in Texas. Texas has got 2 new congressional seats, one from California and one from New York. So you're welcome, America. I think that's probably a good choice.
That is good.
In this district, the entire energy corridor is encompassed in the greater Houston area. Houston is kind of known as the energy capital of the world, and in it is the energy corridor that's entirely in my district. So that will make me the energy congressman of the world, because every single energy company has a major play, and it's entirely in my district. So I have a mandate. My top priority is to preserve the oil and gas industry. And what I've been doing is traveling the country on a Save American Energy tour. So go to SaveAmericanEnergy.com, and you'll find out that we are traveling the country to put a face to the industry, talking to people that work in the industry, talk about how it's reducing our carbon footprint, talk about how our ability to have energy independence is an issue of national security, and we are making sure that we're fighting the left with this rhetoric that we are all nasty, bad people that want to pollute the earth, when really we are the ones that want to save it.
Now, you know, Wesley Hunt, you're the first congressional candidate I've had on who did not give their website before they gave their documentary site. So kudos to you. But how do people give you money?
WesleyForTexas.com. That's my site, WesleyForTexas.com. We will take all the help that we can get to make sure that we keep this seat red.
Yeah, now this seat should be a Republican seat. You should be joining, but you got to take care of the P's and the Q's. SavingAmericanEnergy.com is the documentary, and that's his website, the other website. Now, Wesley, in terms of the general temperature, Democrats try to pretend like they got a bounce in August. They didn't get a bounce in August. That's a dead cat bounce in Wall Street terms. What did you see happen in August?
Well, in August, let's keep in mind that polls tend to tighten around that time no matter what. So I wouldn't call it a bounce. I would call it people are getting more engaged and are paying closer attention. But the bottom line is this. In my lifetime, this is the worst inflation I've seen in my lifetime. This is the highest gas prices I've seen in my lifetime. We have mothers that are having an issue with getting baby formula for their children. We have wars breaking out all over the world that we didn't see 4 years ago under the Trump administration. And I think this is what's on the ballot. People are not stupid. People are paying attention. And this country has fallen apart in just 20 short months. And that's what's going to be on the ballot in November.
Wesley Hunt, yesterday, the Vice President of the United States was on with Chuck Todd. And I want to play the long version for Wesley. It takes about a minute, but it is cut number 10. Cut number 8. Cut number 11, long version.
Would you call the border secure?
I think that there is no question that we have to do what the President and I asked Congress to do. Is the first request we made. Pass a bill to create a pathway to citizenship. The border is secure, but we also have a broken immigration system, in particular over the last 4 years before we came in, and it needs to be fixed.
We're going to have 2 million people cross this border for the first time ever. You're confident this border is secure?
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration. But there are still a lot of problems that we are trying to fix, given the deterioration that happened over the last 4 years.
All right, Wesley Hunt, that's the Vice President of the United States denying reality. Either not knowing, and I can't believe anyone is that ignorant, or simply lying twice. What do you think of that answer?
So her answer was a bold-faced lie. We have had 4.5 million people enter our country illegally. We have had enough fentanyl to enter our country to kill every American 5 times. She was made the, quote, borders are, and she has still not been down to the border. How can she know that there's a problem when she was put in charge of something and she refuses to leave from the front? Sir, look, I'm a military guy. I went to West Point. My brother went to West Point. My sister went to West Point. My dad's a retired colonel in the Army. There's 60 years worth of service in my immediate family. We know what leadership looks like. When you're put in charge of something, be in charge of it. So to sit there and listen to the vice president lie to the American people on this issue is nauseating. But she's also assuming that the American people are stupid. She's also assuming that we don't have a governor sending busloads of immigrants to other cities because we are all border states. We all have to deal with illegal immigration. And she is saying that it's not an issue. And being right down here in Houston, Texas, I'm telling you, it's a problem. It continues to be a problem, and it must stop. The first priority is not immigration reform. The first priority needs to be to stop illegal immigration in our country.
Well said, Wesley Hunt. Now let me ask you a few Army-related questions. Question number one is something of a diversion. My Navy son is engaged to be married to the daughter of an Army colonel. What do you recommend he do on Army-Navy days?
If he's a smart man, he'll just back Army and just call it a day.
I don't think that's going to happen. Second question, very serious. What year did you graduate from West Point? Because we celebrated, or we remember, we don't celebrate. We saluted the victims of 9/11 on the 21st anniversary yesterday. You obviously were not in the military in 2001. You're too young. But when did you enter into service?
I was actually at West Point in 2000. So I graduated class of 2004. So when 9/11 happened, I was a sophomore at West Point, and I knew that we were going to go to war. And the one thing that I'm very proud of my class of is this. You know, your first 2 years at the military academy are actually free. You don't owe anything. So you can leave whenever you want. So as a sophomore, we had a choice. If we stayed at West Point and graduated, we knew that we were all going to go to war. And the overwhelming majority of my class stayed. It's actually one of the most proudest moments I've ever seen in my life for us to graduate, throw our hats in the air, and to know that within the next year or two, we're going to be in combat.
I didn't know that. I did not know you could leave West Point without obligation after 2 years. That's pretty incredible, Wesley Hunt. Now, we also remembered yesterday, or this weekend, and for the last 2 weeks, the fall of Afghanistan 1 year ago. Is that come up on the campaign trail much?
It comes up on the campaign trail for me, sir, almost daily. Because people kind of want to know. People just kind of want to know what happened and how come during the Trump administration we had no issues in Afghanistan. Literally, we had peace in the Middle East. We had the Abraham Accords. We moved the embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. We did all these things right, and then within just 1 year, everything fell apart, and we lost 13 brave Americans because of the incompetence of this administration. And so people want to know, what are we going to do to get our country back, not just in terms of domestic issues, which obviously are the most important to us, but they also want to see how can we regain the respect and our prominence on a global scale as well.
You know, Wesley Hunt, that's very well put. In the Trump administration, because the deranged blue bubble syndrome for people who live in the Beltway, all they talk about is January 6th, Mar-a-Lago documents, how much they hate Trump.
Right.
They don't reflect on the fact that Afghanistan did not fall under Trump, nor would he have allowed it to fall this way. And there was peace in the Middle East, and we had energy independence. That's all 20 months ago. I don't think Democrats realize that you can't fool the American people.
That's exactly right. And especially down here in Houston, especially on the energy independence side of things, and what we're seeing now in Europe, and what we're seeing with now European countries now burning more coal, they're already chopping wood. So if we're doing all of this in the name of climate change, we are literally giving away our energy independence and our ability to fuel the world with what we have right here in our country, which is an abundant resource of natural gas, oil. We're sitting on the Permian Basin, the Marcellus Shale, the Eagle Ford Shale, Alaska. It's absolutely remarkable what we have here, and it makes absolutely no sense to the average American person as to why we would give all that up in the name of climate change when India and China and Russia and other major countries honestly don't care about the climate.
No,
so we
they don't.
can't do it together as a globe. then it makes no sense for us to crater our economy in the name of climate change when it's actually not going to change, because by the time I get off this call with you, sir, China would have built another coal plant. That's what needs to be addressed.
Wesley for Texas, WESLEYFOR for Texas. I do that for the Steelers fans, Wesley. WesleyForTexas.com. But I want to close by bringing an Economist story up this morning. The Economist is opining against Norway because Norway is pumping a lot of oil to try and help the rest of Europe out, and they're charging the market rate. They're not discounting it. And the Economist, that's crazy. The markets are international. Markets are markets.
That's right.
The only way to affect them is to produce more oil like in Texas.
That's exactly correct. And if it's a global commodity, a globally traded commodity, that the price is set globally, why in God's name will we end the Keystone XL pipeline? Why in God's name would we be taking barrels of oil offline when we are the country that can actually impact the price of oil if we just, drill more? If we actually use the resources that we have right here in our country. You know, I visited EQT up in the Marcellus Shale in Pennsylvania, and the capacity that they can create if they just had more pipeline and less permitting and fewer regulations would be remarkable. We can literally fuel the entire world with just Pennsylvania and West Virginia. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Joe.
Conversations. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, Joe Manchin has promised permitting reform. I'm not sure he's going to get it, and it's not going to apply anywhere but West Virginia. But you just put your finger on it. We need pipelines. We need pipelines, Wesley.
Yes, we need pipeline capacity. Pipeline capacity.
Wesley for Texas. WESLEYFOR Texas.com. Go there, help him out. It's you're running through the. I know you're going to run through the tape, Wesley. Thank you, my friend. Come back again before the election. Wesley Hunt for Texas. What a great congressman he's going to be. This is ReliefFactor.com. This is ReliefFactor.com. If you're new to the show, and I do have two new affiliates this morning. One is a week old. My friends who are down in Fredericktown, Missouri on News Talk 94.3 KYLS, you've been used to this for a week. My new audience in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, News Talk WNRI. Welcome aboard 1380 AM and 99.9 FM. Every day at this hour, you hear me talk about ReliefFactor.com. And if you haven't gotten it yet, you're new to the show. You've been in the Blue Bubble media corridor from Boston to D.C., and you can't get any real media. You've been relying on Grace, Curly, and Howie Carr, and now I'm here to liberate your airwaves in the morning. Go get ReliefFactor.com because they sponsor great center-right newsmen like me, great center-right news people and newswomen like Grace and Howie. They are just terrific. ReliefFactor.com keeps you in the game every single day. I did my 12 miles this weekend, 2 6s. Took yesterday off because I had to watch the Browns. That's enough exercise for me, especially when they win in the last 8 seconds. Do we have time to play? Yes, we do. Let's play that Cade York kick again, please. Cut number 1.
York to try to win the game. The kick. Oh, look at this. There's the distance, and Cade York wins it for Cleveland.
I'm pretty sure he uses ReliefFactor.com. I'd actually not. But ReliefFactor.com will help him recover from getting bounced by his buddies. 58-yarder. What a leg. What a strong leg. If you're a field goal kicker, get ReliefFactor.com. Or if you're a broadcaster, or if you're just driving somewhere. 1995 gets you started. Come back. Joe O'Dea is going to be the next senator from Colorado. He's America's candidate. We'll tell you why when we return. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Joe O'Dea has become America's candidate. The self-made businessman is running for Senate in the United States Senate in Colorado against the invisible senator, Michael Bennet. Has really turned heads. Most recently, Karl Rove on this show saying Joe O'Dea is the upset special. He had just done an event with him. Joe O'Dea is back. Good morning, Joe. Welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hugh, it's great to be here with you this morning. Thanks for having me on.
Now, Karl, of course, is a native Coloradan, and he has come often to that state to campaign for Wayne Allard, or Bill Armstrong, or Cory Gardner. He knows a winner when he sees it. How was that event with Rove?
Oh, it was fantastic. In fact, we had a great time. We had 80 people show up, 90 at a different event we did. He's coming back here at the end of the month, so we're looking forward to seeing him again.
Now, Joe, how is the money situation? Schumer's got hundreds of millions of dollars. He's trying to take out Maggie Hassan's best opponent, Chuck Morse, tomorrow. He doesn't want Chuck Morse to win the primary. He tried to do the same thing to you. You won. I'm hoping Chuck Morse wins. But has Schumer let up since he missed getting you the first time?
No, they'll outspend it 6-1. You know, they dumped $10 million into my race here, trying to promote a candidate that they also called a threat to democracy. The hypocrisy is unbelievable, Hugh. They'll do whatever they can to stay in power.
Now, I got to play for you the short version of Kamala Harris yesterday talking to Chuck Todd on NBC. Cut number, a short version of the last cut.
Would you call the border secure?
The border is secure. We have a secure border.
Okay, Joe O'Dea, they were fair, curveball, hanging curveballs for her to answer. Instead, She said the border is secure. What do you think about that?
Well, not only has the president got some issues, she's delusional. You talk to the people down on the border, over 2 million come across so far this year. We've got fentanyl at an all-time high. It's killed 1,800 Coloradans in this past year. This is tragic, and now we've got cartels running the border. They're up here in our neighborhoods, crime at an all-time high. She's just delusional. That she can't be figured. I mean, it's just unbelievable that she can't see it.
Yeah, you don't strike me as a guy who had enough time to watch the Veep series when it was on, but she is actually out Veeping Julia Louis-Dreyfus. That's just incredible, Joe O'Dea. When you talk to people, I think they're talking about affordability, inflation, crime, and the border. Am I wrong?
You're spot on. That's exactly what's going on up here. This inflation thing they've got, it's as if working Americans here are working an entire month right now, Hugh, for free. We've lost 10% of our buying power in the course of just 1 year. That's a tax, and that's been placed on us by the reckless spending coming out of the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C.
Now, Joe, I'm looking for your website, and I'll find it here. It's O'Dea for Colorado, ODEAFOR Colorado. Is that...
Hey, Jew, it's JoeO'Dea.com, JoeOdea.com.
I love a candidate who's on top of it. O'Dea for Colorado is your Twitter handle. JoeO'Dea.com is where people go to contribute to the campaign and to get involved. You got to have a legion of volunteers to win in Colorado, Joe. Have you got them?
Oh, man, we've put together a huge coalition here in Colorado. It's good Trump supporters, GOP supporters, a lot of unaffiliated. We've got a lot of Democrats that have jumped on board. They're disenchanted. Their party has left them. They want some common sense. And we're going to march to the finish line here in November.
You know, Joe, I had a chance to chat with a guy who's a heavy equipment operator down in Florida, Mark, if he's listening, telling me about, keeping people on the job, finding people to work. You employ 300 people. You support 300 families with your construction company. But what about labor? Is labor back in abundant supply for skilled craftsmen?
No, it's tough right now. We're really having a hard time finding people. We need to get them off the couch. We need to make sure that they show up for work. We're making it too easy not to work here in Colorado, and that's a problem. We need these people back in the workforce. That's good for America.
And two last questions. You mentioned fentanyl, Joe. Parents who have been stricken by this with children who've died, I know some of them, and they come up and they talk to me all the time about it. How often does it come up on the campaign trail? Because it is a border issue.
It directly has. It's come up several times. My wife and I have two of our best friends lost their daughter here 3 years ago. So it strikes families very close. It's all over Colorado. It's the meth, it's the fentanyl, it's all of it. We've got to get these addictions under control. We need help with mental health. We need help to get these people moving forward. And we've also got to close this border. It should be our number one priority right now.
And the last question is about crime, Joe O'Dea, because I know inflation comes up. People can't afford groceries. It's going to come up. And I know the voter comes up. What about crime?
Well, it's record here in Colorado. We're the number one state for cocaine convictions. We're the number one state for auto theft. Can you imagine, Hugh, 4,000 vehicles a month are being stolen here in Colorado?
Wow.
And they've made that a misdemeanor. Nobody's being held accountable. And this is all on the watch of liberals that are changing our government and making it easier to be a criminal, and it's got to end.
4,000 cars a month in Colorado are ripped off?
4,000 cars. Unbelievable.
JoeO'Dea.com. Go and help him out. He's America's candidate. It's like being America's team, the Cleveland Browns. Joe O'Dea is America's candidate. Comes out of nowhere, throws the fear of God into the Democrats. They throw $10 million to beat him in the primary. Doesn't work, and now Joe O'Dea is going to win in Colorado. Get behind him, Rocky Mountain State. We need you, Centennial State. JoeO'Dea.com. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Generalissimo. Thanks all of you for listening, especially in Woonsocket, Fredericktown. It's all great to have you. Come back tomorrow for the next Hugh Hewitt Show.